Dan Garrett, archaeologist, professor, sort of like Indiana Jones. On this particular dig, he was in for more than dusty ruins, however. He found a scarab laying atop a mummy sarcophagus, and when he removed the scarab, he is told by a mysterious godlike being,
"Behold me, man of the future, and heed my words well. The power of our sacred scarab has brought you here before us to receive a wondrous gift. You are a man of courage and honor, Daniel Garrett, and the spinning fates have chosen you as the champion of all mankind. Go ye forth and do battle against the forces of evil wherever you may find them, for when you speak the holy words, yours shall be the power to banish evil from earth for all of time. The power of the sacred scarab, the power of the Blue Beetle."
All he had to do was utter the words Kajida, and he had transformed into a somewhat awkward-looking Blue Beetle. He had huge superpowers. He could fly, see through walls, shoot beams out of his eyes, and super strength. Many adventures later, one of Dan's students, Ted Cord, asked Dan for his archaeological expertise to help him track down his Uncle Jarvis. Ted had discovered that his Uncle Jarvis faked his own death and is on an island perfecting a super robot to, well, take over the world. Dan agrees to help, and they both go to the island, and Uncle Jarvis orders his robots to kill Ted and Dan. Dan, however, utters those magic words and turns into the Blue Beetle, crushing the robots around him. But before he can finish them all off, Jarvis detonates the robots, and Dan takes the brunt of the blast to save Ted. Lying there dying, Dan asks Ted to swear to take over as the Blue Beetle. Ted says yes. The building around them begins to collapse, leaving Dan Garrett and his magical scarab beneath tons of rubble. Ted, undaunted by not having powers, goes home and uses his considerable fortune to help him become a superhero. He then builds a floating ship in the shape of a Blue Beetle. It could fly, go underwater, and eventually it could take off even into space. Armed with a gun that blasts a blinding strobe light and a strong burst of air, Ted Cord becomes the second Blue Beetle. This is one of the first comics I ever bought on my own. The second Blue Beetle was created by Steve Ditko, master genius behind the bevy of Marvel characters, including co-creating Spider-Man with Stan Lee. The Ted Cord Blue Beetle was one part detective, billionaire, inventor, acrobat, and jokester. Eventually, he'd be an integral part of the 80s Justice League, constantly getting into hilarious situations with his best friend Booster Gold. Then DC did something stupid. They killed him off. Why? I don't know. It was part of a beginning of what seems to be an overindulgent exploration into weekly comic books. Ted had eventually found Dan Garrett's mystical scarab, but the scarab never could work for him. After a peculiar incident which left the scarab glowing blue, Ted went to the Rock of Eternity where the ancient wizard Shazam was and began to ask questions. The wizard took the scarab from Ted and soon after found himself embroiled in a battle for the cohesion of the universe's magic. Shazam used the scarab to help stop the Spectre's rampage. The ensuing battle destroyed the Rock of Eternity, and the scarab was flung from the explosion only to land in El Paso, Texas, and into the hands of an unsuspecting teenager named Jaime Reyes. When Jaime picked up the scarab, it implanted itself into his back. Retconning a bit, DC decided that the Scarab wasn't actually magical at all, but an artificial intelligence with the ability of allowing Jaime to have blue armor and an array of weapons, including an energy cannon, shields, and wings that allow him to fly. It also could track energy, science, or magical. It sort of has a will of its own, and Jaime and it are at constant odds about how and when to use some of its own powers. Jaime Reyes becomes the third Blue Beetle. Let's go back to Killing Ted. He's one of my favorite comic book heroes. He's the guy that was a hero because he swore to. He rose to the challenge every time in a world that just seemed to be populated by people like Superman and Wonder Woman. He had no powers, but he had a lot of courage and a lot of wit. All that to say this. See this, guys? This is Booster Gold number 6. I haven't been to the comic book store in a while. Get there. This is what's waiting me. Why am I so excited? Obviously, if you watched this whole thing and you got to hear, this is why. Booster Gold number 6. I got this a little bit ago. I didn't really want to talk about anything else because I wanted to talk about Booster Gold number 6. Jeff Johns. Jeff Katz. Very cool. Basically what happens is, if you notice, that is Ted Kord. Ted Kord was shot previously by him. Max, and he used to run the Justice League. And he shot him in the head when he got too close to revealing that this guy was making this sentient, satellite system that could track all the superheroes, everything like that. Whew. They killed Blue Beetle off in 52, or the Countdown to Infinite Crisis, and now he's back, you guys. I'm so excited. I've been waiting for this for a while. Ted Kord is one of my favorite characters. And Booster Gold, you see him down here with a bullet in his head. Better him than Ted, I say. But he doesn't die, really. Not that I spoiled anything for those that are reading it. Booster Gold, if you don't know, is this character that came out back in the day. He was in the future, and he was kind of this football player that got down and out. And so he was working as a security guard at this, I think it was the Legion of Superheroes Hall or something. Anyways. He takes a time machine and a bunch of gear and he goes back in time to our time and he uses all that gear to become a superhero in our time. But he's more of a capitalistic superhero. He's sort of like the NASCAR car. He would get like endorsements and he was very egotistic. But anyways, he saved some people's lives and he was in the 80s Justice League. And the 80s Justice League is where he met Blue Beetle and they became best friends. And they'd get into all these wild and crazy antics. Anyways, Blue Beetle died, Booster felt responsible, and he ended up getting involved with Rip Hunter, who was his time traveler. And he was using Booster Gold to help him go throughout time and help wrong the discrepancies in time. And Booster Gold said he would do that as long as they get to save Ted at the end of it. So Rip Hunter's like, okay, but he really didn't mean okay. And it looked like Rip Hunter was going to renege on the deal, and then Dan Garrett, a future Blue Beetle, and Jaime Reyes show up, and they say, Booster Gold, you got to help us save Ted Kord. So that's what they do, and this is when they do it. If Dan Didio knows what's good for him, he'll keep Ted Kord alive. Booster Gold and Blue Beetle sounds like a great combination. Or if you want to just give Ted Kord his own thing. Or, which I think would be cool, is if Ted Kord became like the superhero's Q, like in James Bond, and he just started inventing things for people. That would be awesome. Think about that. If you kill him off, I'll have to do something drastic and horrible. Anyways, Booster Gold number 6. Awesome. Go check it out.